Sargon of Akkad speaks to Scientologists and then somehow makes links straight to Nazi Germany. My God, how could this happen? Scientology is exactly like the Nazis. It's horrible. Sargon draws links like, so the Scientologists would block you from using the internet, and so you couldn't see what you wanted to do and everything was filtered. Although I agree, as a general statement, okay, that's not fun, that's not nice, but at the same time, that's what companies do to make sure people keep working. Are we gonna call companies cults now? And you could say, well, they're using it for a different reason. Yeah, they are using it for a different reason. That's why you don't say censorship is just bad. Because sometimes you can use it for a good reason, sometimes you can use it for a bad reason. There's two sides to every coin. And everybody has reasons. So now you're gonna have to tell me that private enterprise is just like the Nazis. Which makes it crazy. This is Sargon's problem. Like I've said in the other video, he's stuck in ideologies. He's not there to look at the world and say, well, look, this is how it's been used there, this is how it's been used there. Clearly, two sides could be good if done like this, could be bad if done like this. So the question would always become, what is your goal? What are you trying to do? Why are you trying to do it? What value is it going to provide? If it provides value, good. If it doesn't provide value, stop doing it. That's it. That's how you should evaluate just about everything. Sargon doesn't do that. Sargon just, look, how did the Nazi do it? Was it used by some authoritarian government? Or they have the thing, they were talking about the shaming. So Scientologists would shame certain members. Well, certain, probably even all members. We're just going to go with certain. I'm assuming at least one person was shamed at some point. So certain members are shamed to the point where they can no longer hold their emotions. They're being entirely controlled by the mob rule, and that they're forced into performing actions they don't want to do. Otherwise known as a hazing ritual. Oh my God! Now the Toga Boys are in a cult. Yeah, the whole point of a hazing ritual is to make you think that, yeah, we're gonna laugh at you, we're gonna punish you, you're under our control, that type of thing. You're not really under their control, but it's a psychological thing, When you go to the court, they put your hand on the Bible and they make you swear on the Bible. Why do they do that? It doesn't do anything. Now does the atheist now believe that God has power? Is that what's happening here? No. It's a psychological thing. It's to make you believe that the actions you're about to perform are important. That's the whole point. This isn't occult behavior. Yet again, it is something that is used by multiple different people for different reasons. Some people just think it's fun, and actually that's why frats do it. They actually mostly think it's fun. Yes, part of it is humiliation, but it's also because it's fun. And the biggest one, the army. The entire army is built around this idea. And you say, well, the army's a cult. Yeah, it kind of is a cult. At this point, in particular case, you could argue that, but there's a reason for it. They need you to be obedient. So they need to make sure that you're capable of being obedient. Part of that is to completely destroy who you are and then rebuild you from the ground up. That's why you've got the people screaming at you, pushing you around. Hey, do this, do that. Oh, hey, your shoes aren't correct. Your shirt isn't correct. You're gonna redo this. Your bed is made wrong. They undo it, then make you redo it again. It's to make you understand that there is a power structure, and right now you're at the bottom. And when you get up the power structure, it'll be your turn. But not now. Right now, you're at the lowest rank. And you're going to have to man up and do something with yourself. Has nothing to do with cults. Nothing to do with cults. But again, Sargon, lost in his ideologies, doesn't care about reality. So it's the Nazis. It's the Nazis. They're coming back. It's the authoritarians. They're gonna control everything. Yeah. Okay. Of course, Sargon. Of course, Sargon. Watch out. Watch out. They're behind you. They're behind you. See, Sargon, instead of having the Jews or having the white people or having, whomever oppressive, the actual oppressive system, he just fears the idea of authoritarian and anything that can be linked to authoritarian regimes. They must be bad. And then at some point he went into wiretapping. Wiretapping, that was done by the Nazis and every other democratic government that exists in the whole world. Why draw the Nazi link? Why draw the Nazi link? Every other country in the world does wiretapping. Why is it more evil because now you mentioned the Nazis? It's not more evil. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. He's so desperate to draw links to it's the authoritarians and they're gonna take us over. I see them. I, Sargon, have seen the authoritarians and they're coming for us. Nobody else would do this. Not a true free society like us in Britain, where we arrest comedians. The true liberals. And I know, Lord Sargon will say, well, I'm trying to fight these things. Of course you're trying to fight these things. And what you're fighting is the boogeyman. That's exactly what you're fighting. You're doing much worse than the alt-right. That's why I made the video before of the fall of Sargon, because I think it's, at least for now, in his current pattern, I think it's pretty obvious that he's looking for boogeyman. He's looking for a boogeyman, and it's clouded his judgment very badly. Like ever since his loss with Richard Spencer, it hit him pretty hard. I think his ego got a little bruised. He didn't like that too much. Anyway, so I'll continue on the wiretapping. That's exactly what happened with Snowden. That's why he had to run to Russia. Because, yeah, turns out every democratic country is wiretapping its citizens. It's not, okay, and then governments are still running. Like, it's still pretty much democratic. So, where's the excuse now? As stated again and again, Sargon is such an ideologue. He has very big problems with separating particular characteristics. You can have a democratically elected government, and you can have wiretapping at the same time, and one doesn't necessarily conflict with the other. The police, for all intents and purposes, that's their job. They're literally driving around you, looking for some people who do trouble. They assume someone's going to cause trouble. How dare they? How dare they in an individualist country? How dare they go around acting as though we're some kind of collectivist grouping that are just going to commit crime? How dare they? No, it's statistically likely that you're going to do this. So they hire people to go around look at you. That's their job. Okay? And now it doesn't fit. Like if you follow Sargon's logic, that doesn't fit. They shouldn't be there. It is, for all intents and purposes, authoritarian. But will Sargon see that as authoritarian? No, because this is justified. This is the good guys. And you don't attack the good guys. Because when it's a good thing, it's individualists. When it's a bad thing, it's the collectivists. And somehow one can't be the other, and it can't be intermingled. And a statement of intent, which is what individualist and collectivist is, it is simply a statement of intent, is somehow the exact same thing as action performed in the real world. Even though, if you listen to my other videos, you would understand this a little more. A working collectivist ideology, you wouldn't even know it exists, because it's seamless. It's absolutely seamless. It just works in the background, but you don't know it exists because it just works. That's the beauty of working collectivism. The thing is that he gets there. He gets close when he talks to the Scientology guy, or even when he talks about the cult as a general thing. He gets really close to it. In the shaming ritual that we're talking about, at some point the people don't even know why they're shaming you. They're just doing it because they're like conditioned to doing it, and that's the thing about collectivism. Right there. Is that when it works, when you're in it and it works, at some point you don't even know why you're doing it. You're just doing it, and that's the point about collectivism. You just end up by doing it. When it's something that works, and you're not being shamed or told, I stop doing this, when there's no one there to tell you to stop performing these actions because this is bad because of this, you're just doing it and you think it's normal. And this is why, again, if you listen to my other videos, that's why I say social behavior, the entirety of social behavior is collectivism. You just don't know because it's seamless. It just works. You just go to people and you talk to them and they understand you and then you talk back. That's collectivism. But you don't call it collectivism because it just works. There's no thinking involved. It's so ingrained into you that you don't even see it. It's completely seamless. Now, last I checked, people don't greet themselves by punching themselves in the face and then pissing on each other. You could if you wanted to, but people don't do that. It's weird, eh? But you never thought about that. You never thought about why aren't people doing that. You just assume that makes sense, or it just makes sense. That's just the way it should work. Clearly, it's the more polite way of doing this. Clearly by what standard? There's no law in the universe that claims that you can't do that. That law doesn't exist. Okay, and there is a person that was born that would do that. You can see people who have Tourette's syndrome and they just walk around and they just swear. Okay, who told them to do that? Where's the grand law of the universe? I mean, these people exist. Unless they're not real people. I guess those are collectivist people. Because they do weird things. That's reality. Okay? These people exist. And if they would have been sexually preferred, well, they would have kept existing, and then the behaviors would have become more and more extreme. And then at some point, yeah, you could have gone to a point where society would have been punch you in the face, and then I give you a slur, and then I just walk away, and then that's how we say hi. Oh, that's just how we say hi. Could have been normal, but it isn't, because it's just not the way we evolved. That's just not what was selected for. Turns out people don't like being punched in the face, and it turns out it doesn't lead to sexual success, you know? Well, then, you can argue some specific scenarios like rape. Good punch in the face could help you, but barring illegal activity, no. Usually, it doesn't work. But you won't question that, because you're not actually trying to figure out reality. You're just trying to apply some ideology, and then clearly this is the polite thing, and therefore that is the thing that will be happening. It just makes sense, and it's individualist, because it's the good thing. It cannot be collectivist because an individual chose not to punch you in the face. And what happens in collectivists grouping? You think the person in the Scientology didn't decide to scream at you? But you could say, well, they were convinced. You were convinced to say the word hello. How is that any different from you than from them? It's the same thing. You were conditioned to perform the actions you're currently performing. Or you could just give a handshake to everybody. Huh? You could give him a high five instead. You give him a slap in the face. That works too. Slap on the shoulder if you don't want to be as a brute. Why not do that? There's a million ways to greet people. Why not a wink? There's the wink. How is that not more common? Now I know why generally it's not more common. Am I going to look at your wink? That's why you wave. It's a big gesture. It's easier to see. Your hand moves and everything. I understand the logistics of this, but there's no reason as to why it wouldn't have been something you would have learned. Why not whistle? I mean, there is a group of people who whistle. They have an entire whistling language. Google it, the whistling language. I don't know what's going to come up, but there's one. Okay, it exists. Trust me. I am a figure of authority. And I can be trusted. I swear. Do as I say. Do it now. Donate to my Patreon. There's no reason why those behaviors didn't become the most common behaviors. But Sargon's not going to assume that. He's just going to assume the thing that he's already seen, and, well, that's what the cults did, therefore it must be bad. No. The cults did the same thing you would do in any other situation. It's just the cults in this particular setting are using it to take advantage of people. That's part of the plan. But once you're in the scheme, you're kind of part of the cogs, so you're stuck with it, and so you don't see it anymore because it's part of who you are. And it's the same thing here. Maybe saying hello to people is extremely inefficient, and it's the most disastrous thing you could ever do for your social life, okay? But we don't know that because it's part of who we are. It's just we're part of the cogs. That's how we were raised, and that's how we see it, and that's how we do it. But is he going to question that? No. He's not going to draw the link that saying hello would be equivalent to the lady screaming shame to the other lady. He's not going to draw the link. He's just going to assume that, well, this is just completely different for the completely different. No, both of the people were conditioned to perform these actions because those actions were claimed to be socially advantageous for whatever reason. It's the same thing. They might have different uses, but in the end, it's the same thing. You're doing it for the same reasons because you believe it is advantageous for whatever you're doing, and they believe it is advantageous for whatever they're doing. They're just part of the clockwork. They're making the clock tick. That's it. And that right there is your definition of collectivism, the one that you should be using. Everyone that's engaged together in making the clock tick. That's what a collectivist ideology is. When you're all in it together to make the clock tick. And if you remove too many people, the clock stops ticking. That's your individualism. Your individualism is when each cog in the machine decides, well, I'm gonna stop ticking. And when they stop ticking, the whole thing stops ticking. If you're too individualist, well, nothing's gonna tick. That's it. It's a sad day. That's the reality we live in. I didn't make it. It's the way it works. Not am I telling you to join Scientology or something like that. No, well, yeah, it depends on what you want. I mean, if you want to live in a cult, sure, have fun. But if you're trying to, create large-scale technology, go to space, make AI, or have a nice life, have kids, money. If you want kids and money, it seems Scientology is decent enough. Yeah, some people say, oh, then you go in debt, but you could stay there for your whole life. I'd say, if you're $60,000 in debt, well, more than that, $500,000 in debt, but you have a house and kids and a husband and a wife, can you really say that's a bad spot? You're clearly not homeless, so it's not that much of a bad spot. And if you die with your debt, okay, then you're dead with a debt. You're dead. You don't have to repay that. It goes away, basically. You shouldn't necessarily join Scientology. Understand the benefits and understand the disadvantages. The biggest disadvantage is that they control your entire life, which, yeah, that's not fun. So, but if you want your entire life to be controlled and run the chance of being like Tom Cruise and think you're so important and so this and so that, then sure, go do that. But you have to understand the caveats, and that's the fact that you might have to stop talking to your entire family, And, yeah, if that's what you want, go do it. Some people do make the choice of doing things like Scientology, knowing full well what it's all about. Some people, that's what they want to do with their lives. So that's why I'm not against Scientology. I don't care. Okay, do it. I don't care. People can join you and leave you if they want to. Now, are some people afraid to get away from it? Yeah, kind of. But that's the thing. They hold you by their balls. But it's the same thing for jobs. Same thing for marriages. People are afraid of leaving because of money. So what now is, again, I draw the job analogy that I did before, or jobs cults. They follow basically the same rules, basically the same idea. They have all your money, and then technically with that money you can get into debt because the more you make, the more you can loan from the bank, and then if you lose your job, well then you can't pay your debt, and then you're stuck with your debt. It's even worse than Scientology, because at least Scientology, you know when you're gonna get fired. If you don't do this, you know you're gonna get fired. If you don't play ball. But your job, you could end up by just being fired just because they don't need you anymore because your job has been replaced by blah blah blah. So I mean, you could argue that Scientology is actually better than a job. I understand this is a bit odd, simply because Scientology usually takes people that are very rich and then they don't actually have jobs to begin with, so it's not a good comparison. In fact, it's a horrible comparison, but you can still make the link. Okay, you can easily make the transition that Scientology kind of works like a job. The difference is that they put you into debt, and once you're into debt, they leave you. They usually just kick you off. So yeah, that doesn't help too much. But usually they pick people who are wealthy. If you don't have any money to buy the books to begin with, they won't take you in. So it's not like you'll get into the loop anyway. Look, I'm sure if you made a bank loan, they'd take you in just to get the bank loan. So it's a bad idea. But you can easily compare it to a job. Sargon the ideologue. From feminist critique to useless philosopher. Just a giant talking head. Blah, blah, blah. The Nazis. The Nazis. Oh, it's the Nazis. And then even in the stream that he did not long ago, he's like, oh, I'm not telling you Hitler was a sadist, like a person who seeks to do damage to other people, like he liked dogs and he wanted to stop smoking, things like that. And then after that, he points to the Nazis as the most evil people the world's ever seen. And the Nazis did wiretapping. Now it must be real bad. Except for everybody else who did wiretapping. The people you consider to be the good guys. How does that make sense? Get out of your ideological bubble. Join the real world. Okay, I've talked enough. Thank you for listening. If at all possible, donate to my Patreon. And goodbye.